What's up, family? So you out here working two jobs just to keep the light on. Your rent's climbing, groceries through the roof, gas, forget about it. And the city you live in is Los Angeles. Can't even balance his own budget, but somehow, they just find more money to hand out free cash to undocumented migrants. Let that sink in for a second. But anyway, don't take my word for it. Check it
Here
out.
was where in the 1980s, Father Luis Olivares of the iconic Placita Church, just across the street, initiated the sanctuary movement, declaring the Placita as a sanctuary and safe space for all immigrants and refugees. And myself, as a child of immigrants, I recall those days as an LA kid. I will never forget the news coverage of our own Mayor Tom Bradley standing side by side in solidarity with the sanctuary movement. And so today, I want to thank our Mayor Karen Bass for being here at El Pueblo, continuing that tradition of leadership and resilience. Here at the very heart of Los Angeles, we're here to support you in all efforts to protect our immigrant communities. Thank you, Mayor Bass.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you so much for recalling that tradition. You were a young child, I wasn't. But I remember Father Olivares very well and remember that movement, and that movement continues today and is represented by the people who are standing here with me. So the organizations that are represented, and some you will hear speak today, CHIRLA, the Salvadorian American Leadership and Educational Fund, the Asian Pacific Islander Equity Alliance, Community Coalition, Inclusive Action, and SEIU USWW, continuing the tradition of solidarity in our city. I am here today to sign an executive directive, and I just want to point out the irony for a minute, that there is a need for me to have an executive directive to help our city understand how to protect itself from our federal government. Just let that sink in for a minute. What we have seen here over the last now going on 6 weeks of raids that pop up and we never know exactly when and where they're going to happen. We've seen them in the general region. I'm sure many people saw Camarillo yesterday and what broke out there. We saw MacArthur Park earlier this week, which I think now, after all assessments, it is viewed as just a display of force, just to put the city in its place, to say we are the federal government, we can roll out troops whenever we choose. So the executive directive that I will be signing in a few minutes is to help the city family, to help the city workforce, to help the city departments and all of the general managers essentially develop preparedness plans that have specific protocols and that help city workers know how to address immigration officials should they approach a city department. How we abide by the law, but we understand what our rights are as city employees, how we can provide protection for immigrants who might be attending a city event or at a city property, but we stay within the law. That we make sure.
Man. So LA is bringing back a COVID era relief program, the Angelino Card. And this time it's not about helping Los Angeles or Angeloans recover from a pandemic. No, this time the target is undocumented migrants or immigrants who are afraid to go to work, afraid to leave their homes, and in some cases are actively evading immigration enforcement. And the kicker is this is all happening while the city is staring down a $1 billion budget deficit, billion with a B. Okay? Let that sink in.
Sure that people that work with city contractors ensure that they are safe on city property. So you might have heard that a few days ago there were city contractors who were working and ICE rolled up on them and asked for ID and was inappropriate. And so even people that contract with the city, we want them to understand what their rights are. We want each department to have an immigration affairs liaison, and we want each department that if they encounter any federal officials, that they contact the city, especially the mayor's office, right away, so that we can, number one, make account of this, but also make sure that all the city departments and city workers are informed on how to deal with this. We also want to disseminate information on city services and assistance programs for families that are impacted by federal enforcement actions. And we are submitting a FOIA, a Freedom of Information Act request regarding the dates and locations of all enforcement activities in Los Angeles. I think you've heard me repeat every time I speak before you that when people are taken from our city, we do not necessarily know where they are going. They are not provided regular access to families or to legal counsel, and that the family members that are left behind don't know whether their family members are in the city, in the state, or even in the country. And we also know that when these raids have been happening, it's not just people who are undocumented, but people who are in the country legally, people who are showing up for their annual immigration.
All right, let's skip ahead.
Access to legal counsel. Angelinos have disappeared. Working members of our community, many have been racially profiled. They destroy the trust that holds our communities together. When immigration and
Hold up, man.
Are undocumented, but people who are in the country legally, people who are showing up for their annual immigration visit, or even sometimes U.S. citizens who have been detained. So once again, I just want to repeat the irony that I am going to sign an executive directive to help the city family understand how to protect the workforce and Angelinos from our federal government. With that, I would like to introduce Angelica Salas from CHIRLA, the coalition.
All right. How does this make sense? So the Angelino Card started during the COVID-19 pandemic under Mayor Eric Garcia. It was designed as an emergency assistance card to provide cash to residents who were hit hard by lockdowns. That made sense in context. Entire industry shut down overnight. But now, under Mayor Karen Bass, the program is being resurrected, not for citizens or legal residents, but for undocumented migrants who, according to her, are too scared to go to work because of potential federal immigration raids. You wouldn't have to be scared or afraid of immigration enforcement or immigration enforcers or ICE if you are illegal. If you are illegal, then you won't gotta run, right? The mayor has stated that families are being torn apart, that people are being detained, and the fear is spread throughout the immigrant communities. So, as part of a broader protective initiative, LA is stepping in with financial support, not food, not shelter, cash, direct assistance, no questions asked. So, you got to ask yourself, where is that money coming from? Because here's the reality: LA isn't exactly rolling in extra cash. The city is already running $100 billion deficit or shortfall. And that's not a projection. That's happening right now as of today of this video that I'm making. And they're making cuts across the board, layoffs, hiring freezes, delayed maintenance, reduced police and fire coverage, trash collection and sanitation services falling behind. And not to mention the wildfires that happened not too long ago, where she's not even helping residents of Los Angeles hurry up and get their homes back up and running. They don't want to wait, and they got to go through all this red tape just to get the debris up so they can restart their lives over for legal residents and residents of Los Angeles that are Americans, that are on legal citizens. So city workers are being told to do more with less. All while the city turns around and writes checks to people who aren't even supposed to be legally in the country in the first place. So think about it. They're pulling resources from essential city services that you pay for with your taxes, and they're rerouting that money to provide cash for people who, by federal law, shouldn't even be in the country. And this isn't conspiracy, it's policy. So Mary Bass says she's also coordinated with philanthropic partners to cover some of the costs, foundations, donors, and NGOs. You want to know why she got to go to donors and NGOs and sponsorships and sponsors and all that? Because they don't have no money. So the problem is, when you don't have no money, and let's be honest, when has a public private partnership ever fully funded Let me slow down because now it is mind blowing to me. When has a public private partnership ever fully insulted taxpayers from the costs or fully insulated taxpayers from the costs? Right? When have when has a public private partnership fully insulated taxpayers from the costs? Meaning, when has a private partnership fully covered the cost from taxpayers? Meanwhile, the average American family is living paycheck to paycheck. A Federal Reserve report last year showed that over 60% of Americans won't even be able to cover a $1,000 emergency fund. And here we are in one of the most expensive cities in the country, watching local leaders prioritize people who aren't even paying into the system over those who are being crushed under the system. And this is what people mean when they talk about backwards priorities, right? But this goes deeper than just dollars and cents, okay? Mary Bass isn't just giving out aid, she's also going after the federal government. She wants records of when and where immigration enforcement raids are happening. She wants the names and identification of the officers involved. She wants policy documentation why federal agents are wearing masks, why their vests only say police, and why they're using unmarked cars. So she's implying that federal agents are untrustworthy, that their presence is somehow indistinguishable from criminal elements, and that they're bigger threat than the chaos they're supposedly trying to manage. Let's not ignore the fact that LAPD officers are required to identify themselves, name, badge, business card. But Mary Bass is essentially calling out the feds for not following that same transparency standard when executing immigration related arrests, right? So that's not just political theater, it's obstruction. She's doing everything she can to undermine federal immigration enforcement in her city. But we need to ask the real question, who actually benefits from this? Is this about public safety or is this more political posturing for the cameras? Let's not forget Governor Gavin Newsom, the same guy who was running ads in other states bragging about California policies, is already moving pieces around for a 2028 presidential run. Word is, if he runs, Vice President Kamala Harris may try to slide back in as governor of California. So if you think these cash handouts and pro-migrant policies are purely about compassion, think again. This is about building a voter base. It's about influence. It's about showing off progressive credentials on the national stage. And it's about feeding the narrative that California is the model state for what America should be. Spoiler alert, it's not. Look, man, the scenery in California is beautiful. The weather may be phenomenal, but the culture, the leadership, that's where things is trash. California had the potential to be the greatest state in the country. And it can be possibly, it still can be, but right now it's just mismanaged by poor leadership. You got to hold leadership accountable. People are leaving in droves. Businesses are packing up. Families are relocating to other states just to find stability. Look at Elon Musk. Tesla is not in California no more. Tesla over there, what? In Texas somewhere? And yet, instead of fixing crumbling infrastructure, restoring law enforcement, or solving the homelessness crisis, the leadership is doubling down on policies that prioritize non citizens over citizens. How does that work? How do you justify handing out cash to undocumented migrants while laying off city workers and slashing essential services? It doesn't make sense, not morally, not financially, not politically, unless, of course, your true goal is something other than governance. But let's be honest, now there's like the illegal immigrants that she's giving these cash payments out to. They basically getting paid under the table, but by the mayor of the city. So here's the part where you come in. If you're tired of this kind of leadership, which I hope you will be for legal individuals and Americans, and you're watching your city, especially Los Angeles, fall apart while the people in charge bend over backwards and serve those who break the rules, speak up, man. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments. Do you agree with the mayor's priorities? Or is this just more political insanity from a city that's completely lost touch with its people? If you find this breakdown helpful, don't forget to subscribe, like, and hit that bell so you never miss a new upload. And if you want to support the channel and get into a deeper conversation, look, man, just keep rocking with me. And welcome to the family. If you're new, if you're already part of the family, I appreciate you for rocking with me. Peace.